あれなんかおかしい。なんかこんな感じ。ね。No way! あ
Throughout the history of VTubing, there has always been at least one person that can be pointed to as the face of it all. At first, it was Kizuna Ai, the founding father of the game. She was the true OG VTuber that got people's attention into it. After Ai came 2018, where companies like Hololive and Nijisanji splashed onto the scene with a wide array of talent having their debut. But during this era, there wasn't really a specific person that represented VTubing as a whole. Some fans were into the Hololive talents like Akai Hato, Aqua, Ayame, Marine, among other great VTubers, whereas another set of people were into Nijisanji's near 40 VTubers that they debuted within like 2 years. But you gotta remember that VTubers were kind of just seen as a pretty small niche. While there were a lot of talent flooding YouTube and Twitch, it wasn't necessarily a widespread form of media. If anything, it was still really shocking for some people to find out about this since it was still pretty early in the timeline of VTubing. But that would all change when one specific VTuber would step foot into the game and truly cause VTubers to rise in popularity. Of course, I'm talking about Kiryu Coco here, and she is probably the VTuber that has done the most for the genre outside of Kizuna Ai. She was the first Japanese VTuber to click with a mass Western audience. She was the most recognizable and respected Japanese VTuber at the time, and she even introduced meme reviews. It was astonishing to see how much Coco was able to do for VTubing, which was also what helped cement her as one of the greatest to ever do it. But at this point, there weren't really any English VTubers. While VShoujo did have talent like Neanders and Ironmounts making waves online, they weren't necessarily at the same peaks of where Hololive and Nijisanji were at. And of course, indies existed, but they lacked the proper exposure for their talents to become widespread. And this is where Hololive created one of the biggest impacts for VTubing in history. Holo Myth. Bro, this is so fucking cool. 5 English VTubers and possibly the best ones they could have ever chosen while they were at it. It's crazy to think how Yagu went 5 for 5 in his first batch of Holo EN, but hey, that's why he's my GOAT. These 5 are all debatably top 20 all time, which is crazy to think about since it's all in the same batch. These English VTubers also paved the way for Nijisanji to release Lazulite, which was their own batch of VTubers for the Western audience. And later on, Nijisanji would also debut male VTubers, which is another whole of degeneracy that I will not be expanding on. Things were looking good for VTubing. Until it didn't. You see, although Kiryu Coco had already passed the torch of VTubing, she was going to be graduating after a year and a half of being a VTuber. Of course, there was some controversy, which I won't be diving into, but this was still a large hit to VTubing. Having one of your GOATs retire is something that can cause serious damage, and it would take someone of the same power to repair it. Luckily, Hololive had already found someone fit for the job. Gura arrived onto the scene in the first batch of Hololive's English branch, and she immediately gained 1 million subscribers in 40 days. If you know a thing or two about VTubers, you will be easily aware of just how much of a powerhouse Gura was in her prime. I'm talking consistent 100,000 viewers, always 1 million subscribers ahead of every other VTuber, and being the undoubted face of VTubing. There was even a point where Gura was at the top for so long that people thought Nijisanji was finally going to dethrone her with Salome, and holy shit how wrong they were. If you aren't familiar with Gura, she is basically the GOAT of VTubing. Most accolades, international recognition, second fastest VTuber to hit 1 million, basically everything is under her belt. Even now, she's still the most subscribed VTuber of all time. Putting it into perspective, starting from her debut in 2020, she has consistently been the highest ranking VTuber in terms of subscriber count, where she sits today at 4.7 million. I mean, she even showed up at a Dodgers game, which gave her even more recognition. And this happened at the later end of her career, which just shows her longevity. But all good things must come to an end, including Gura, because May 1st, 2025, she has now graduated from Hololive. Everyone remembers where they were when they found out about the news, and it was not a pretty sight. Me personally, I was sat down for an hour straight not moving because of this. Gura had introduced so many people into VTubing and had been the face of the game for so much longer than everyone else. Kizuna Ai was the trailblazer for 2 years from 2016 to 2018. The VTuber rise lasted for nearly 2 years until Kiryu Coco took the reins from December 2019 until July 2021. But Gura had already been the most popular VTuber starting in September of 2020, which means that she has been the face of VTubing VTubing for 4.5 years straight. It's sad to see her go, but realistically, we can't expect her to be with us forever. But with Gura leaving the game, she has left really large shoes to fill. What she was able to do is not easy, and it would take a lot for someone else to replicate her level of success. So who is going to be taking the torch? We could say Iron Mouse, but she's already been in the game for a long time now, dating back all the way to 2017. And I would consider someone from Nijisanji, but that company has been dying well before Hololive started collapsing. And indie VTubers are more for personal likings, not necessarily for representing the media as a whole. But if we're looking for someone to be the next big dog of VTubing, they'll need to have a specific lineup of traits: individuality, consistency, and engagement. The next face of VTubers will need to stand out from the rest. They will have to be at the top of their game at all times, and they will have to be a person that has the potential to connect with the hearts of their fans. There's a few VTubers that I have in mind that I can see taking up the throne, so if given some time, it is possible that the next face of the game could very well be Anthony Edwards! Baby MJ himself, the greatest Timberwolf of all time. Fuck the Lakers, Cancun in 5, bitch. 100 child support cases versus Anthony Edwards. But in all seriousness, my first candidate is Fuomoko. The duo made their debut almost 2 years ago now and have been going strong ever since. Out of all the VTubers in Holo Advent, they were the ones that amassed the largest following pre-debut, and deservedly so. If you know, you know, but these two aren't new to the game whatsoever. And within their time, they are the first Advent members to reach 1 million subscribers and are nearing the top 30 of Hololive's most subscribed active VTubers and currently are in the top 5 of English Hololivers. They've also innovated the game already, having 2 people stream together with the VTuber models, which is practically their trademark. And of course, I can't talk about the next in line for VTubers without mentioning Kobo. She's currently ranked 4th largest active Holo VTuber and by far the largest Indonesia VTuber. Similarly with Fuomoko, she's already been in the game for a while, dating all the way back to 2022, and she's already had her moments and career-defining clips, so it's more than possible for her to be the most marketable VTuber in the space for a while. And there's also Hosho Marine. Now, Marine is an OG, debuting well before Gura, but she's also currently the most subscribed VTuber with the GOAT now graduated. Being the face of VTubing isn't necessarily about being the biggest, but with how much ahead she is compared to everyone else, we might have to wait for a while until the next big VTuber. But at the same time, I believe that Marin will just be the biggest VTuber, whereas Fuomoko and Kobo can be the most marketable ones. And we also have our last candidate, Iron Mouse. As it stands right now, she is the biggest VTuber in general, and that's not up for debate because she literally beat Kaisenat's subscriber record on Twitch. It would be amazing if she still has more years in her career, seeing as how she's already a veteran of the game. But I feel that she'll have the same role as Marine, the biggest VTuber, but not necessarily the next GOAT in line. In NBA terms, think of her as like Stephen Curry during the LeBron era. I know that sounds weird, but just trust me on this one. Of course, all of them are talented in their own way, but if you were to ask me who the next face of VTubing would be, I would go with Fuomoko. They have a lot more gas in the tank, seeing as how they're still relatively new with Hololive, and the fact that there's 2 of them means that there's limitless potential. And you gotta remember how much movement they've had in the short amount of time they've been Fuomoko. There were so many people lined up outside a Mr. Donut in Akihabara after they posted a picture on Twitter, and all they did was say that it was their favorite place, which led to people flying out to go get ponderings at the fucking Mr. Donut. This guy still has his luggage with him. He's either leaving on the same day or he came straight from the airport. The movement that Fuomoko has is something that can't be ignored, which is why I have them as my pick for the next face of VTubing. And that's not even mentioning how they absolutely fried Kendrick Lamar. Dot literally had to diss Drake and J. Cole in order to distract people from the fact that he got destroyed by 2 anime dogs. He knew it was over when they called him Kevin Lamar. Truly, these 2 have already reached GOAT status. Unbelievable. But in all seriousness, no matter who becomes the face of VTubers, all that counts is if they're able to bring VTubers back to their heights. If you were there for the peak of VTubers in the early parts of the decade, then you can probably relate with how much fun it was to just watch them play and talk with each other. Over the past few months, VTuber fans have been extremely down bad. Starting from when Aqua graduated, VTuber fans have never seen good days. It feels like every month there's a new big time VTuber graduating. You had Ame, Aqua, and Chloe all leaving at the same time, and it was to a point where you couldn't even decide if Hololive or Nijisanji was doing worse. This year's April has been the worst of it all. Fulgur has left Nijisanji, Mume has graduated, and Gura has graduated right after April. Mataro left V Shoujo, Ike even left Nijisanji without a stream on the same day as the announcement, and then you have the whole Cinder controversy. And in return, all that we get is Dream VTuber. Like, what the fuck? VTubing is badly in need of someone to come in and change the game for the better. It doesn't even need to be from a corporation either. Indies are on the rise now, and with VTubing at its best accessibility, you would think that someone would have taken the crown now. Eras where everyone is doing their part is cool with how you can see everyone's talents, but it ultimately just harms the media. No one is there to be the marketed face that causes everyone to grow along with them. My only hope now is that Gura's graduation isn't going to be something that we watch and then forget about. With how influential Gura has been, I really hope that this is a sign for Hololive and Nijisanji to go maximum overdrive for their VTubers. You can't just have near 20 VTubers combined graduate in the span of half a year without a reason. So really, all that I hope for is that in the future, Fuwamoko, Kobo, or any new talent is able to raise VTubing to greater heights. I know that Gura literally just graduated, but I still miss her. And yes, I do know about the Enigma, but that's a whole different rabbit hole with a different set of questions and theories that I really just don't want to get into that. All that I know is that if VTubers continue to stream, then we'll eventually reach a renaissance. And that's going to be my input on the current state of VTubers. Of course, I'm skipping out on a lot of my opinions and thoughts, but the bottom line is that Gura's graduation has now left the crown open up for grabs. As for who gets it, only time will tell. Just make sure it isn't fucking Dream.